the first time I have ever read in front of an audience. I'm extremely nervous. So, this is an excerpt from my story that I wrote called On the Road to Human Rights Day. It's about a time when I was right out of college and I was working in the refugee camps in Thailand. And I got on a bus to go to the border of Cambodia to celebrate the UN Declaration of Human Rights, but I got on the wrong bus. This is what happened. I had just drifted off when I felt the bus pull off the highway. Heard the gravel crunch as it came to a stop in an unpaved parking lot. I shook myself awake. Surely we hadn't reached Iran already. I looked out the window and noticed we were nowhere near any sort of town. There was nothing around but some dry blowing dust, some scrubby-looking grass, and a 2-story concrete block of a building painted grayish pink, almost completely without adornment or windows. There was a sign above the building in silvery Thai script that glinted in the waning rays of sunlight, and below that a soft filtered headshot of a young Thai woman, face tilted coyly to the side, a red hibiscus flower behind her ear. Oh, shit. My fellow bus riders were pulling their belongings from the overhead storage racks and filing off the bus. Confused, panicky, I made my way to the driver, who was sitting on the seat, marking up some kind of paperwork with a toothpick dangling from his mouth. "Isn't this the bus going to Aranya Pratet?" I asked in Thai. The driver regarded me blandly. "We'll get there tomorrow. We're spending the night here tonight." "Staying here? But I thought..." The driver sighed, utterly unconcerned with whatever was my predicament. "We're staying here tonight. You can have dinner, see the show, get a room. We'll leave for Iran at 9 o'clock tomorrow." Holy crap. No wonder the ticket seller questioned my purchase at the Bangkok station. No wonder that bar girl on the bus kept looking at me so strangely. This was the bus to Iran that made an overnight brothel stop. And every rider on the bus knew that, except for me. Through the open door of the bus, I could see the blonde guy and the bar girl heading across the parking lot. Hurriedly, I grabbed my overnight bag and I rushed to catch up with them. "Hey, do you guys mind if I hang out with you for a little while?" The blonde man looked at me with an open but bewildered smile. "You don't speak English?" I asked, deflated. "Italiano," he said, his hand to his chest. The girl, looped onto her companion's arm, swung forward, offering, "I speak English little," which was about the level of my Thai, so I asked in Thai if I could eat dinner with them. They happily agreed. They were so tiny, these two. At 5'8", I loomed over them both, but I followed them into the building like a small child, desperate not to be separated from her parents. Everyone was handed a room key on a green plastic tag as we entered the building. We went through a short hallway and into a dark, windowless dining room where white cloth-covered tables were set up before an elevated stage. The room had a rank smell: mildewed carpet, cigarette smoke, spilled beer. The bar girl, well, at least I knew her name now, Noi, ordered a variety of dishes for us without looking at the menu, displaying what looked like a level of familiarity with the waiter. Did she know him, or was it just her personality to be open and at ease with everyone? We made small talk as best we could. I learned Noi was originally from this part of Thailand and that the Italiano, Gavino, was on vacation from his job in Saudi Arabia. Something to do with ships. That was all I could understand. Why they were here and whether they were headed to Iran the next day, I wasn't able to discern. The waiter brought a large bottle of whiskey in an ice bucket and filled everyone's glass. My eyes struggled to adjust to the dim light, and the music, a cloying soundtrack of Thai soft rock on high volume, was distorted and disorienting. I knew I needed to keep my wits about me, and I left my whiskey glass untouched. At some point, once the dinner plates were cleared, the music stopped and a man in a white suit and sunglasses strode onto the stage. He began some rapid-fire babble in the microphone that elicited cheers and a few whistles from the men in the room. A spotlight came on, lighting up a mirrored disco ball over the stage, and then a teenage girl trotted out, head down, to take the microphone from the white-suited man. She was wearing a formal dress of stiff lavender taffeta with puffed sleeves and a tiered skirt, black stockings and clunky black pumps. Her face was heavily powdered and her lips were coated in red gloss. She looked like a child playing dress-up, but for the large button affixed to the right side of her dress, bearing the number 4. The girl kept her head bowed as she began to sing in a high, wavering voice. The men at the tables clapped. She shuffled inelegantly, her wide peasant feet not fit for those tapered shoes. When she was finished, she made a little nod, her hands pressed together before her face, and scurried from the stage. She was followed by a girl in a yellow dress, wearing the number 10. On the night went with a succession of girls singing out brief little songs in baby doll voices, while the men watched and clapped and motioned to the waitstaff, ordering up their evening companions the way they'd order dinner and drinks. The whole scene was so hugely depressing. I'd seen plenty of prostitution in my year and a half in Thailand, and thought I'd grown numb to its ubiquitousness. But this was somehow worse than all the clubs and sex shows in Bangkok. These girls didn't have any of the brazenness of women like Noi. They were just a bunch of shy farm girls in ridiculous get-ups. What hardships had their families endured that they must be subjected to this humiliation? At some point, a slightly doughy Thai man in typical workaday clothes, short-sleeved button-down shirt, loose-fitting slacks, plastic sandals, pulled up a chair next to Noi. He seemed to know her, but then again, maybe that's just the way men were with her. As he talked, Noi seemed to grow increasingly irritated. Across the table from me, the elfin Gavino watched, propped up on his elbows, just minutes away from passing out. Noi turned from the stranger and leaned into me, her head almost touching mine. "He say he like you," she said in a low shout, gesturing to the Thai man, who was leaning back in his chair, chin up, arms folded across his chest. He had a drunk, serious look on his face, his mouth pulled solemnly down, as if he were conducting a business transaction, not trying to pick up a girl. I smiled and shook my head. "No, thank you." She turned back to the man, speaking sharply and making shooing motions with her hand. He stumbled off. The room was emptying out as the men collected the girls they'd ordered and headed upstairs. "Well, I think I'll go to bed now," I said, thanking Noi for dinner and sliding some baht notes across the table to pay for my share. I headed up the barely lit staircase, contemplating my room key on the plastic tab with the Thai numeral 24 written on it. It's not easy with foreign numerals to follow along sequentially, arriving at your correct room. So I made my way down the narrow corridor slowly, concentrating on the numbers above each door, trying to match the swirling script to the inscription on my key tag. I didn't notice I was being followed. When at last I found the key to door match, I was not on guard for the man stumble running towards me from the stairwell. It was the pudgy man Noi had shooed away from our table. He was angry, shouting something I assumed about me having the nerve to refuse him. He lurched towards me as I fumbled with my key, but I managed to get the door open and slip inside before he could get a hand on me. He leaned against the door, now yelling violently as I pushed back, heart pounding in fear. I was screaming, "Stop it! Stop it! Leave me alone!" At least half the rooms on the hallway were occupied at that point, but no one came out to assist me or even, as far as I could tell, stuck a head out to see what all the commotion was about. I could feel the man pressing against my door was unsteady on his feet, but the alcohol rage was strengthening him. He pried a hand through the narrowing gap, his thick fingers curled around my side of the door. I gasped and hesitated for a brief moment, not wanting to hurt him, before coming to my senses, stepping back and flinging myself against the door, smashing those fingers against the frame. I heard the man drop to the floor, yowling in pain. Quickly I pulled the door shut, and panting, trembling, I slid the silver latch at the top for added protection. "God damn you, you fucking asshole," I screamed safely from behind my locked door. "I'm not your goddamn bar girl. You can't do that to me." I stumbled backwards into the room, took flustered note of my surroundings. A full-size mattress on a wooden floor, an unadorned, dim-wadded bulb hanging from the low ceiling. No chairs, dresser, or nightstand. No windows. I took heaving breaths of the fetid air. I was in a prison cell. I thought of the shy, awkward girls I'd seen singing downstairs, of the girl in the purple taffeta hanging her head, gritting through her song, her wide peasant feet in those unfamiliar shoes. I thought of her here, or in the next room, or down the hall with some drunk fool like the one I'd just pushed away from my door. I thought of how night after night she was here, in a barren room, her dress-up clothes on the wood floor, her young body on a single overused mattress. I started to cry. I let my knees give way and I slumped down on the mattress, letting the tears come and come and come. I cried for my foolishness, for getting myself into this situation, and I cried for those girls and for the great unfairness of life. In the morning, I knew I would walk out of this horrible place, get on the bus, and continue on to see a man I wasn't in love with, but who, no matter, would treat me with the utmost kindness and respect. And the next day, we would go and watch a whole other class of trapped people muster together for a celebration of the UN Declaration of Human Rights.